Hi.
My name is Mia, and today I will be discussing the Gothic Awakening during the late Middle Ages. Gothic Awakening was a stylistic and creative wave that came over the whole of Western Europe around 1100 and continued to flourish into the 1400s.
It was largely influenced by Catholicism.
People who refer to themselves as goth tend to dress in a very avant-garde fashion with very wild and dramatic hair and makeup. Gothic style during the late Middle Ages, however, is quite the opposite. Gothic style is characterized by tall, expansive structures. In a Gothic church, you'll usually find tall, pointed arches that seem to touch the sky and walls covered in beautiful stained glass windows that appear to be almost crystalline. This is a striking contrast to the darker and far more plain Romanesque churches that came before this Gothic era. Gothic style was originally referred to as French style, taking a lot of its influence from the French and the Latin. However, it would be the Italians that would eventually give it the name that we now know it as today. During this revival, churches all over Western Europe began to breed this cult of light.
Now, what is a cult of light? Well, I have an answer for you.
This cult preached that the Lord is where the light is and the darkness is where he is absent. Now, this was very critical in Gothic culture becoming what it was, as religion was the core of Gothic style. Now, this characteristic would continue to be seen in art from the Renaissance period that came shortly after the Gothic period to the Romanticism period. It was this kind of art that brought people together and aroused this much stronger sense of passion for religion. It's why many churches paid artists to create these amazing artistic works influenced by God. It's all about the people. With no people, there's no religion, and no religion can exist without having something worth following and worth being passionate about. But this ideology is heavily reflected in the architectural style of the Gothic era. One of the most famous churches to feature Gothic architecture was the cathedral at Chartres. This Roman Catholic church is located in a town called Chartres in France, southwest of Paris.
So, right about here?
The church was finished in 1221, even though that number is a little debated based on whatever source that you go to, but we're just gonna go with 1221. But the product was an immense and honestly breathtaking structure.
You could honestly mistake the cathedral for a palace.
It features long, sharp lines and massive, colorful windows that allow light to beam through. Part of what makes the windows such a spectacular sight is how each individual frame has a different biblical tale or parable to be told. Most of these windows even have glass from when the building was first erected. However, the Gothic Awakening was more than just a shift in architectural structure and design. It had a great impact on artistic composition, theater, and music. Sculptures made during this era had religious stories and characters carved into them, as you can see here in the Jam sculpture. As you can see, it features the ancestors of Christ and saints. These sculptures had far more than just artistic or beauty at face value. They were also used as instructional tools in the church. Paintings made during the Gothic era also exhibited major biblical events such as the Passion of Christ and stories from the New Testament.
They were dramatic and used various shade and light techniques
to evoke a greater sense of emotion. Great examples of these can be found in the illuminated manuscripts of the Gothic period. The paintings that came out of the Gothic era were, also used as instructional tools. From painting, we move on to plays. Vernacular religious dramas are plays that eventually had to be moved outside of the church as they became far too elaborate to be performed within the four walls of a cathedral. These plays were thoughtful and well put together. They just had to be moved into the towns.
And oh, were the people for it.
The people loved and embraced the theater, holding these spectacles in the town square for all to see on holy days.
There were three main types of vernacular plays during the Gothic era: morality, mystery, and miracle plays.
Morality plays were used to show the struggle between vices and virtue. These plays had a moral story, which is where the name comes from. Examples include The Castle of Perseverance, which is the earliest full-length vernacular play known in all of existence.
It's a pretty big deal.
At a whopping 3,649 lines, it's quite a doozy.
Ha, a doozy? More like a snoozy.
This play follows our protagonist, Humanum Genus, a man who falls into sin by his own free will. On his deathbed, he's begging for mercy as he's about to be dragged into the depths of hell. And then God finally gives in as he's begging for mercy and saves his life. Plays like this spook people into wanting to follow the path of moral goodness, which is, I guess, okay. It's great, I guess. Mystery plays were often depictions of scriptures and biblical stories. They often featured special effects like flying angels and super hellish, devilish fires.
They too, however, tended to be very, very long. The French play, The Acts of the Apostles, by Simon and Arnold Graban, took 40 days to perform. Like 40 whole days. How ridiculous is that? Like, I can't even imagine being stuck doing one task for more than 4 hours.
These plays usually feature the struggles and triumphant battles that these people each face throughout their lifetimes. These plays commonly discuss the lives of Mary and Joseph and weren't always as realistic as they could have been, but you know, a little fiction never hurt in showbiz. That's what we call pizzazz. But with more complexity in the theater also came a greater complexity in the music being used. In the theater, yeah, you get what I'm saying. They developed new and advanced musical techniques and different elements and features that made it just better all around. A prime example of one of these advancements is called
polyphony,
also known as
Organum.
It is in which 2 or more melodic lines are played together in harmony. Having 2 independent melodies playing at the same time is what gives music a sense of texture, and it's still used today in music, especially in the genre of pop punk. You can hear it on Motion City Soundtrack's song, The Future Freaks Me Out, as I'm gonna play it, right? Yeah. In conclusion, the Gothic era was a very neat and exciting time in human history, and is much of the reason why we have such a hyper focus on entertainment and music today. Though today we have shed a lot of the religious influence that so dramatically defined this artistic age, the roots still run deep. From the crisp lines and points we see in artistic composition and architecture, to the grandeur and spectacle of theater, it's all still around today. Each architectural and artistic work from the Gothic era is a preservation of history that we have to thank for setting this exquisite bar for immaculate art today. So, thank you, ancestors.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video. Please give me a good grade.